very first thing that I want to share with you guys this week is that we finally purchased a milk cow. So we had a farm a few hours away from us that posted a bunch of heifers for sale. She probably had like 15 different bred heifers to choose from. So this little cow, we named her Lori, is hopefully going to become our family milk cow. So she's due to calve here in about a month. And we were so excited to make the little road trip and add her to our farm. Lori is a purebred registered Jersey, so she is a Jersey cow made to be like a family milk cow. She should produce like 3 to 4 gallons of milk for us every day, plus be able to raise her calf. So she is due to have a baby girl. May 20th is her official due date. They told us that that baby is also going to be another purebred Jersey. So we're really excited and looking forward to that, to potentially having 2 milk cows in our family down the road. But for now, we're just going to kind of learn the ropes with Lori, hopefully get her into a really good milking routine and making that a part of my morning chores here very soon. I feel like I say this at the turn of every season, but springtime really is one of my favorite times on the farm. You just start to see everything wake up after a long winter, and those long and warmer days just make me feel so good to get outside and really enjoy the farm and set some really good goals for the upcoming season. This is another pretty busy week here on the farm. We have quite a few things going on as we prepare to turn the cattle out onto pasture for the first time this year. So we are starting a new grazing season. Our pastures are finally looking ready for the cattle to come out and begin the rotational grazing here on the farm. And as we go through setting all this up and preparing for the upcoming spring and summer months of grazing, I thought it would be neat to share with you guys more about what we do on our farm day to day and how we remain profitable. So how we manage our animals to avoid high overhead costs, and then how we also market and sell our animals direct to consumers. I have had so many questions just since I started this channel, wanting more information about how we run our business, how many acres do we graze, how many cows do we have, what other animals are profitable here on the farm. So I thought this would be a great time to share all of that with you guys, because this is the season when we really start making decisions and setting goals for the year ahead. Now that we are in the warmer months, we have been enjoying so much more time outdoors. And one of my big goals for this summer is to create more outdoor entertaining and like hangout areas on our farm. So that is why I'm excited for this week's sponsor, and that is Bali Outdoors. We got the 40-inch wood burning fire pit, which is perfect right off our back porch for a relaxed evening by the fire. I really love the look of this fire pit, so I think it's going to work perfectly for my plan to create that entertaining area in our backyard. Some of my favorite features about this fire pit is the cool to touch outer ledge and its child safety design. The 20-inch deep bowl keeps all sparks contained into the fire pit. It also has a 360 degrees swivel grill top, which is so fun for hosting bonfires and barbecues. This top is also easily removable to switch between fire pit and grill mode. The fire pit has sturdy steel construction and was so easy to assemble. The other night we had friends over and the fire pit was the perfect place to sit around, enjoy each other's company and the beautiful evening outside. The children had fun roasting hot dogs and marshmallows, and I love that I had a fire pit that was also safe for them to be around. I am so looking forward to more summer nights gathering around the fire pit, having a place to host friends and family, and just enjoying that outside time. That's why I'm so excited to get some areas set up on the farm, and I'm really happy that this fire pit was exactly what I was wanting, and it's going to fit perfectly into my plan for that area. I am so looking forward to having more relaxed evenings here on the farm, just enjoying time around the fire. If you would also like to elevate your outdoor entertainment areas, be sure to check out the link in my description and try a Bali Outdoors wood burning fire pit for yourselves. Thank you so much to Bali Outdoors for sponsoring this week's video. One of the very first things that we changed on our farm was how we graze our cattle. So we used to just have about 3 big fields that we would turn our cattle out in. That is called a continual grazing system. However, as I started to dive more into learning more about regenerative farming, I quickly realized that that was not a system that was going to work long term, because that system requires high inputs every season in order to grow grass. You almost have to fertilize and do weed control on your pastures year to year just to grow enough grass to hopefully feed the cattle for half of the year. So I dove into learning all about rotational grazing. I even went to a grazing school where it was a week-long course and we toured other farms that did this. I've been to many different conferences and read a lot of different books just learning how to implement rotational grazing on our farm. So that is what we are working on right now, subdividing all of our bigger pastures and making sure that we have drinkers for the cattle in every smaller field. Here on our farm, we have approximately 120 main grazing acres. Of that 120 acres, we divide those 5 main pastures into much smaller paddocks. So we have about 20 to 25 paddocks throughout the season, and this really mimics a natural grazing system by keeping them all together in one big herd and moving them along, allowing each section of the farm proper time to rest and regrow before cows come back to graze those same plants again. Using these step-in posts and the electric string allows us to easily get this all set up every new season. In between all the busyness of the spring and things that need to get done on the farm, I try to also make sure I have time in the kitchen just prepping meals and continuing to cook from scratch, but doing it in a much simpler way. So I'm sneaking back inside to get some bread going before my husband gets here with a big group of baby meat chickens. So meat chickens is something that we added to the farm about 3 years ago, and it has been pretty profitable for us, but also something kind of hard to learn. So I want to share more of that side of our business with you guys as well. Every spring, we get a big batch of meat chicks to raise out on pasture. We have chicken tractors that we put them in once they're big enough to leave the little brooder. So they need to be on heat lamps and kept at an even 90-degree temperature until they're a little bit bigger. But soon they will go out on our pastures, and I will move them forward every day. It's a really great clean environment to raise meat chicken, but there are a lot of challenges to chickens on pasture. Weather plays a huge role, and unfortunately predators are also a huge problem. But over the course of raising several batches the last few years, we have learned how to work through these challenges, and now meat chicks are a profitable part of the farm because you can get them and have a finished product in about 8 weeks, and you can do a lot of them at one time with not a huge land base. With beef, you can get maxed out very quickly with the amount of acres that we have, and beef cattle take over 2 years from the time of breeding until you have a sellable product. But a pastured poultry system can be scaled up with very little land base and very little time. Sometimes I refer to our farm as a small farm, and people comment that this is not a small farm. But compared to other farms that are making a full-time living, we would be considered a smaller farm. With our land base, we can raise about 60 head of mama cows. So that is our cow herd base. And then every year they have babies. We also have breeding bulls to breed the cows. So altogether, we usually have more than 100 head of cattle on the farm. And we do have goals to expand, but with cattle, you are very limited on how much you can expand. As I said, we have 120 grazing acres and an additional 80 acres that we are working towards converting into pasture ground. That does not include our wooded acres. And on a farm like ours that we are working towards providing a full-time income from, we really need to utilize all the land that we have. So that is why we have expanded into raising pastured meat chicken. And then on our wooded pasture, we also raise pigs during the summer months. We have plans to get pigs here very soon. By adding more animals onto our farm, we're able to utilize our land in a more profitable way, because with cattle, you are very limited on the amount you can have. Each mama cow to raise a baby needs about 3 acres of land. So to an extent, that part of the operation is not scalable. So that is why we found it so important to learn how to raise meat chickens and pigs and bring more scalable enterprises onto our farm. Now that the cattle have been turned out to graze for the year, most evenings I go out to move them to new sections of the farm to implement our rotational grazing plan. So when I have inside time, I like to get dinner mostly prepped to help our evenings go smoother. We get so late this time of year with the longer daylight hours, so being able to come inside to a prep dinner makes those evenings much simpler. Now that we have everything set up, we are ready to get the cows turned out for grazing this year. It took us a few days to get everything ready. We just wanted to make sure that we had several of the pastures ready to go, because once we start moving them, we will move them every day this time of year. So it's really important to be several paddocks ahead of them, and we are set up to continue to do it throughout the summertime. The cows are always so ready to get out for the first time. So my dad went ahead on the side-by-side, and then I stayed back behind just to make sure all the babies were following along and everybody was on course to get out to their first pasture. There is really something about cattle when they're out grazing on fresh green pasture. They just look so much happier and healthier. So that is why it is such a goal of ours on our farm to try to be able to graze throughout the season as much as possible. And in order to do that, we have to be very careful about our pasture management. So that's why we take the extra time to get everything set up in the early spring for a long grazing season. So now it will become part of my daily routine going out and moving the cows to fresh grass. Fortunately, we have some pretty good infrastructure in place on our farm. So all I have to do now that we have everything set up is go out there, call them all, and open up the fence to the new pasture. Every pasture has an automatic drinker in it, and we just moved their mineral feeder. It has been quite a few months since they've been turned out to pasture, but they all caught on to the routine very well. Now every time I drive out there, they're going to be looking for me and ready to move on to that good, lush, fresh grass. I honestly don't consider this a chore this time of year. I love going out and seeing the cattle happily move around the farm, grazing just as nature intended. I hope you guys learned so much from my video this week, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week. I hope you enjoyed it.